taking the sky. It was similar to watching the Super Bowl when both teams take the field. I had never seen any phenomena like this in my life. And they were, as we turned, as we heard this sound going across the valley, my companions and I just looked up in the sky, and these objects had just taken formation in the sky.
Could you describe the objects, the color?
Well, they change colors, but my first impression of these objects were silver, very shining points of light.
The young lady was with you as an artist, and you've got a
photograph here, yes.
Well, not a photograph, a drawing.
A drawing. There were so many.
Let's see this.
There were so many of these.
This is the mountains here, and these are the dozens of small craft. What are these balls of light going down?
Well, first, and this phenomena went on for about 15 to 20 minutes, I would guess. These smaller points of light that were turning from silver at times to a reddish hue, to a green colors, to amber colors and aqua colors. They do change color. These smaller points of light here are craft, and again I say there were 16, 18, possibly 24. There were so many of these that we just couldn't count them. Now, it appeared that they were maneuvering. They were on some type of maneuvers. They would go from one part of the sky we were watching completely across the valley to the other side of the valley in literally a second or 2 seconds. They would form into groups of 3s or 4s.
Well, this would be impossible with any conventional aircraft, and if they would fly that distance, would they stop on a dime?
They would stop. The incredible distances that these craft, if you will, were traveling in the matter of seconds. I'm not familiar with any type of technology.
Well, these are flying objects.
These are definitely intelligently controlled,
unidentified flying
objects. Yes, exactly.
Or UFOs.
UFOs. I was experiencing a visual sighting of possibly 24 UFOs traveling across the night sky.
Well, you're talking really about the grand slam, the great jackpot of UFO sightings.
Well, as I said earlier in this interview, I've always had an interest in this type of phenomena. I have seen films, I've seen documentaries on TV, I've seen motion pictures of different sightings or whatever, but I have never seen a photograph or a video or even a motion picture presentation.
How about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg?
Yes, I've seen that movie.
Would you say that this would be similar to that sighting?
In my opinion, this was a lot more spectacular than Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a movie. What I experienced out there was total reality. And I understood immediately that I was witnessing something that I had never before seen on film or heard of happening. It was a major sighting, in my opinion, at that time. And since that time, I have spoken with other researchers and people of interest that say what we experienced out there. And I thank God that I had 2 witnesses with me to corroborate this story. I realize how hard this is for some people to believe. Hearing something like this in the past, I would have had trouble believing it too. But I witnessed this. I experienced this with 2 other live human beings. And what we saw for the next 20 minutes was obviously some type of craft on maneuvers. I mean, that's the impression I got.
You talked privately about lights coming from a craft, smaller lights, like a mothership or something of that nature?
Well, the initial phenomena of these 24 craft, if you will, were on maneuvers for about 20 minutes in my estimation. And then it really got wild. The best way I can describe it, and if we can have that
Yes.
rendition again, this is my friend, her painting of this, her description of this. It started with one sphere. It appeared to be a supernova while all these other craft were maneuvering across the sky. One supernova would start from nowhere. It just started, and I've never seen anything like this in my life. The actual size, the size of this was the first thing that shocked me.
How big was it, say, in comparison to the moon?
To a full moon, I would guesstimate that it was 1/6 to 1/8 the size of a completely full moon. Now you have to understand, Anthony, that we were observing this from about 10 miles away. And to see something that large, for me, to see something that large in the sky just appear out of nowhere, something 1/6 the size of a full moon in the middle of nowhere. And then these other round spherical spheres or discs start coming out of it. I mean, to me, this was just an incredible sight. First, this supernova, completely round, and then out of it came, and this went on for the next 40 minutes.
So the discs that were coming out of it, were they as large as the nova?
A little bit smaller, in my opinion, but they would, it was happening so fast, they would come out of the first sphere, sometimes only 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, sometimes, as in this drawing here, 7. And this not only happened once, but it would happen approximately every 4 or 5 minutes, and it would go from one part of the sky to the other part of the sky, and it kept repeating itself. The first time we observed this, it was incredible, to say the least. And to my recollection, the first time it happened, only 3 spheres or discs or saucers came out of possibly the mother ship. It happened approximately 5 or 6 minutes later on the opposite side of the valley when this phenomena took place again. To my recollection, 4 or 5 discs came out of the nova. And it kept repeating itself every 5 or 6 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, around the entire sky. It was the most incredible aerial phenomena that I've ever seen. At this time, my 2 companions and myself were completely stunned. I mean, we were giggling. We just couldn't believe what we were witnessing. As I said, we all have an interest in this, but I had never even seen a film, a Hollywood animated movie, to compare with what I was witnessing. I was witnessing a major, in my opinion, a major UFO sighting, and God knows what else was going on. I believe the average person on planet Earth that would experience and see what I saw in Area 51 that particular evening in June of 1992, given the limited information that's available to the general public, I believe if the average citizen saw that, it would scare the living hell out of the average person, throw them into a complete state of panic. It's my understanding that this type of aerial phenomena, whether it be extraterrestrial or terrestrial, whether or not the extraterrestrials are teaching our American Air Force pilots to fly these craft. I believe it's part, myself, I believe it's part of some grand scheme to frighten people into accepting something.
To frighten people to accept a new world order?
I could see the possibilities of that very easily.
Headed over to the inn for breakfast.